Ho, chickadees. How are we all this Monday evening? I hope you can hear me. I've been having some technical issues this evening. That's how things roll around here. Can y'all just give me a thumbs up in the chat that you can hear me and see me? I know it's just been weird. Not everything's been working the way it's supposed to. I do want to say hello to Kelly. Thank you so much for joining this evening. As always, I'm not okay, cool. Thumbs up. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just wanted to make sure since I've had so many issues this evening. Thanks for being here. I hope you're safe. I hope you're warm. I hope you have electricity. If you don't have electricity, I hope you are bundled up with a nice, cozy fur baby, possibly, and a blankie. That's where I would be. Also, I wanted to make sure you all knew I am going to be back on track on Wednesday for Wine and Crime Wednesday. My plan is I think I'm going to start doing a breakdown that's going to be multiple episodes to get us prepared for the Corey Richins case, because it is tap dancing right around the corner. I want to make sure we go over the documents. We know what's going to be happening. We got to talk about the walk the dog letter, because that's out there too. So definitely want to go over all of that. I had my annual oncologist appointment today, and I have a new doctor. And my new doctor, his name is Bruce Wayne, y'all. So I call him Dr. Batman. I have Dr. Batman. And I don't have my blood work back yet, so I don't know what the status is. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that all my levels are where they're supposed to be. So we will keep that, our fingers crossed, and say some positive thoughts and prayers to make sure that everything comes back as it is supposed to. We are going to have one of our favorites tonight on with me. Make sure that before I get into all of that, make sure that you hit the like, subscribe. I guess if you're on the replay crew, there's some sort of hype thing you could do now. Do all the things for me if you don't mind. And yes, we are on our way to 2,000 subscribers. So tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell everybody about what a great time you have at Ms. Demeanor's house. And back to what we're going to our regular scheduled programming. Tonight, I'm going to be bringing back Mr. Dana McLendon. I have a lot of questions about what happened in court for those post-conviction relief hearings that we weren't able to see. And one of those in particular involved the ATM in the photo of the truck. So without any more delay, I am going to bring Mr. McLendon on with us. Hello.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for being back. So I know we talked briefly backstage about the day that, I guess I should give a little bit of background. I just assume that everybody that comes on here knows who you are, knows what the background is.
I mean, I'm kind of a big deal, but
I mean, yeah, you are kind of a big deal. You're more than a big deal.
Right.
So, Zachary Adams was convicted in 2017 for the disappearance, or I should say the abduction, the rape, and murder of Holly Bobo.
Correct.
And we have on this channel done extensive background on it. We rewatched the trial back in December, and we all agree there was no evidence to actually convict Zach. And as luck would have it, he finally got a judge that would pay attention to what the evidence was, and he began post-conviction relief hearings in March of last year. Is that correct? Was it in March? I know there were hearings in May.
The first evidentiary hearings were really in May.
In May, okay.
Before that, there were, I would say, procedural, important, but procedural hearings. The first witness was May.
And was the first witness then Beth Boswell?
I think it was John Walker. Could be wrong.
Oh,
I could be
Oh,
wrong.
no, I
It's one of those
mean,
things where it's, um,
all a blur now.
yeah, it was, if it wasn't the first batch of witnesses, I think were like John Walker, the Reeves, the cell phone expert, Paul Dillon, the PI who ran the route that can't be run, Autry's route. Um, so there's the question was John or Joe. It was John Walker, the U.S. Marshal. And I may be getting the witnesses out of order,
You're
but
good.
my memory is that those were early on.
So before then, uh, I want to talk about this picture
Hmm.
and how this. So that happened before any witnesses testified. Is
Yeah, I
that what
think
I
that was
understand?
again. I think that was January, and at that point there were no cameras in the courtroom.
Correct.
So it happened to be, I want to say it was late January, maybe February. We had gone down for a hearing, knowing that, and it was actually one of those, what I said was a procedural hearing where the issue was the state had filed a motion to dismiss the entire petition outright.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah, which they do.
Right.
And many times it is dismissed outright at that point.
Mhm.
Um, the backstory on how that
Yes, please
became kind of,
spill the tea, Dana. Spill
yeah.
the tea.
So the story about this ATM, which frankly, I've been a trial lawyer for almost 3.5 decades now, and there are only maybe a handful of what I call Perry Mason moments. And for your listeners and viewers that are too young, that's
Oh
like
no,
this
we're
is
all oldies here. Everybody knows.
so yeah, that's like an astonishing moment where you're like, it's what I think people often think court is, and it's really almost never that, right?
Correct.
People think court is this gotcha, aha, you know, the shocking witness walks in the door, and it's all those cliched Hollywood moments that are
Right.
manufactured for entertainment purposes that never actually happen.
Nope.
So anyway, the when Holly disappeared, the intense focus was on the roughly hour and a half uh, after her disappearance and before her phone went dead. Because the working assumption, I think, was that um, everything they needed to know, or at least who they needed to be looking for, was in that window. They couldn't do everything, so they had to decide what to zero in on. And Terry Dicus, who was the lead TBI agent, has explained it that if once we knew, we being the TBI, once the TBI knew that you were accounted for and not Holly's kidnapper in between the hours of 7:45 a.m. and like 10 a.m., they didn't care where you were. They didn't care
Correct.
what you were doing. They didn't care where you were, which makes
And that,
sense,
yeah, I was just going to say that makes
right? That makes
total
perfect
sense to
sense,
me.
unless you think perhaps Holly is still alive or whatever. I personally don't think any. I personally think she was dead within the hour of her abduction, but
I believe
that's
so
another
too.
story. So when Holly was abducted, April 13th, 2011, again, according to Terry Dicus, the lead TBI agent, pretty much every Caucasian male within 75 miles was a suspect, or at least a potential suspect. So when when eventually, through a long series of sad events that we've covered at some length, when the TBI's focus eventually turned to Zach Adams and his little brother Dylan and their friends Jason Autry and Shane Austin, um, those guys realized that, oh shit, we need to figure out where we were,
Right.
because what they knew was, we didn't take her. We didn't take her. We didn't rape her. We didn't kill her. We didn't get rid of her body. But suddenly they needed to account for themselves. So if you can imagine, well, Janet, where were you 5 days ago,
What was
Wednesday
the
morning?
date 5 days ago? I don't
Right.
even know.
You might have to get out your phone, or you might have to do all kinds of
Right.
reconstruction, unless you just happen to know, oh, that I had surgery that day or whatever it was. So one of the things that happened was that Shane Austin's parents began to look into this and realized that Shane's bank records revealed bank transactions that had happened that day, including an ATM withdrawal, including some purchases at some local gas stations, convenience stores, and a local Sonic down in Parsons. And so they got the bank statements, and the bank statements, in fact, showed $120 cash withdrawal made by Shane on that day. However, it was not time stamped, so they couldn't say exactly what time this had happened. They just knew it was that day. Well, when Zach years later was trying to account for his day, my understanding is that this information jogged his memory, and he
Sure.
began telling his lawyers, yeah, we went to get gas up near the interstate because we needed some gas to get from the interstate back to Parsons.
Right.
Then we went to the ATM to get money to buy drugs. Then we went to the Stop and Rob, and we went to Sonic. Now, in the life of Zach Adams and his buddies, this was any other Wednesday. They were drug addicts. They were
Sure.
not regularly employed. This was typical. They would get up and try to find their dope for the day.
Chase your high.
Right. So this is what
That's what addicts do. Chase the high every day.
Right. So, and except for the fact that that also happened to be the day Holly was kidnapped,
Right.
it was an unremarkable day for them. But Zach had some memories about where he was and what he'd done and everything else. And he started telling Jennifer Thompson, his lawyer, hey, we're going to be on that ATM video. I think he guessed that it was, around 11 o'clock by the time he put it all together. The Sonic, the MAPCO and all this stuff should all line up, and it should at least give us an irrefutable alibi for the later part of that morning.
Right.
So, unfortunately, Jennifer Thompson, despite her efforts, was never able to recover this ATM video for a couple of reasons. One, the TBI had already gotten it. And the TBI, in my opinion, eventually, unintentionally or maybe intentionally, kind of buried it in 4 terabytes of data and concluded that it was meaningless. And now it's...
I want to ask about that because I just want to make sure that I have the understanding correct of what happened. So the state of Tennessee did turn over the video of them at the ATM during original discovery in 2017.
That appears to be the case. That appears to be the case as we understand it now.
Okay. However, that data or that video was in a format that was unable to be opened. Am I also understanding that correctly?
I think there's some dispute about that depending upon who you ask. The long and short of it is this. Everybody with a camera within a few, 50 miles or whatever, turned over massive amounts of DVDs and videotapes and whatever they had that could be helpful.
Right.
Imagine, if you will, every camera that was on a store, a house, whatever, that people turned in. There were not enough man hours to catalog this and understand what they were looking at.
Too much.
Right? Because they were looking for Holly in these videos. They were not looking for cars because they had no car to look for. They were not looking for men because that didn't do them any good. They were looking for Holly.
Right.
And so if at a cursory glance you didn't see Holly, you moved on. Now, there's some question about whether or not anyone ever actually viewed what we now know to be the ATM video. Some of them have said they did. Some of the others have said that didn't happen. We didn't know. Or we didn't realize its importance.
So they got it, not sure whether it was able to be opened or not. They, meaning Jennifer Thompson and the defense team, or they kind of didn't even know they had it there because it was labeled incorrectly and no one knew what the heck it was. Am I close?
At a minimum, the video was mislabeled and buried 14 folders deep in something you wouldn't look at. There was also an investigative report written by Joe William Walker that concluded that there were no cameras that covered the area that they were looking for because they were attempting to either establish or refute Zach's alibi. And Joe William Walker wrote a memorandum that said, we've looked and there are no cameras to see this area. So if you saw that IR, you would perhaps give it the benefit of the doubt and say, well, okay, there's sorry. Jennifer Thompson also sent subpoenas directly to the bank, and the bank returned them and said, we don't have anything like that. It turned out that the state of Tennessee had already gotten the ATM videos, and Terry Dicus had in fact viewed them during that earlier window. He never got to the 11 o'clock time. And even if he had, he probably wouldn't have known
Wouldn't have
what
been
he was,
important at
it
that
wouldn't have been
time.
important to him because they were looking for Holly. And that entire video doesn't show any human, which I find odd. But
It's
well,
odd.
I mean, even in 2011, what's the point of an ATM video if it doesn't capture the face of the person using the ATM?
I
Alas,
haven't the faintest idea.
yeah, this one took grainy pictures of vehicles and not people for whatever reason.
So
Um,
odd.
so it's also true that Jennifer Thompson operated her law office on a Mac. And it's true too that every state agency, every law enforcement agency I've ever dealt with deals exclusively in Windows platform. So I have a Windows computer that I hate, but I have it only so that I can open the thumb drive, DVD, CD, whatever it is that the state of Tennessee or its law enforcement agency has
Sent.
given me. Right. So Jennifer Thompson struggled and said many times, I can't open this file. I can't open this file. I can't open this file. And quite often the state's answer was, well, we can, and we don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, not our problem.
Now, I can tell you that at least one of the defense team's members had a hard drive on which the video exists. And it is, I'm convinced that that video was accessible to the defense team in Windows format in 2015, 16, 17. Had they known it was there, had they known how to get through all the mislabeled layers and all of that. Now, did Jennifer Thompson? No, clearly she never either knew it was there, found it, or was able to access it because it did not become part of the trial evidence. So it sat on this hard drive that everyone had it, and whether it's, I'm not sure that it satisfies the requirements of Brady regarding the prosecution's obligation to disclose exculpatory evidence to simply stash a video 18 layers deep in a folder
That's
that's been mislabeled and say
what I
there's
was
no
gonna
such
ask.
thing,
Yeah.
and then turn it over and say, well, we gave you everything we had. I don't, there is some case law that says that's not quite enough. So in any event, it did not become part of the trial. And yet, um, Zach continued to maintain his innocence. And he actually started saying, he actually had some specific details that have now been corroborated by the
Absolutely.
eventual discovery of the video because he said, look, we were down there about 11 o'clock. We did this, we did this, we did this. And we went through that ATM backwards, meaning with
Opposite way.
the passenger window to the machine because Shane had the ATM card and Shane was going to be the one getting the money out. And they didn't want to fumble with handing the card over or giving PIN numbers to the other
Right.
addict or whatever. So sure enough, when you see the pictures in the video, one truck identical to Dylan's goes
the wrong
through
way.
backwards at 11:12 a.m. So
I have to
now,
ask one question before we get going into the pictures and all of that. Do you believe it was the folders and labels and things were intentionally mischievously misplaced?
well, interesting question. We do know that one of the TBI agents who apparently had some role in supervising this discovery process has said that he believes it was an intern that put it in the wrong folder in the wrong place under the wrong label. Some intern in
Okay.
Memphis. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Was it intentionally buried? I don't know. I do know this. We have someone who's qualified to do it looking at the hard drive to determine whether or not such shenanigans occurred.
Oh.
So stand by for that.
Yeah, because one of the things with all of that, and as we all rewatched the trial in December on my channel, one of the big questions I had is, was there an opportunity for this video, for a picture, for this someone to say anything about them going to the ATM that morning. And there was one point, and I don't remember specifically when it was, but I know there was a single point that Jennifer Nichols, the Penguin, made a point to say, there is nothing that says he was anywhere that he says he was it. And she went on and on and on about it. And I was like, that's actually not true. And she knows that as she's saying it.
Well, uh, I think potentially the greatest impact of the defense team's failure to realize that they had this and its importance was that it certainly impacted whether or not Zach might testify for himself. Because had he had the benefit of that video and had the defense done what Doug Bates has now shown was possible,
Absolutely.
it is entirely possible that the strategy might have been for Zach to get up there and make his alibi from the witness stand with the benefit of all the evidence that was available and yet largely unknown to the defense team. So, so what happens is this ATM information is sitting, and it's not just the ATM. The ATM is astonishing, but not far from it in the folder hierarchy is the stop and rob video of Dylan, and it's plain as day that it's Dylan.
Oh, that's right.
In the stop and rob. So the state can say whatever it wants about, oh, well, who knows who's in that Silverado that's identical to Dylan's at exactly the time that they said they would be there. Who knows? They cannot say that's not Dylan at the MAPCO because it's plainly Dylan at the MAPCO, and he said so, and there's no witness that says it's not him.
Right.
So it's the ATM video gets a lot of, I don't want to say hype, but attention. The MAPCO video is definitely one of the defendants in Parsons at the time they said they were. And it matters for reasons that Doug Bates has explored at length and that we've talked about on our podcast a lot. But what happens next
damning
is
evidence to the entire narrative that the state has perpetuated for many, many years.
Yeah. So if you zoom out on this case, what you find is that there's two things happening. On the one hand, there's the forensic scientific evidence that is immutable, right? There's the phone calls, there's the text messages, there's the cameras, there's the bank records, there's things like that nobody can change now or later. You once you know that you are looking at the bona fide bank record, it is what it is.
Yep. Facts are facts.
Then the rest of what happened here is the story as told through the various characters and witnesses. And if you look at this case strictly through the lens of the scientific evidence, you almost have to come to the conclusion that Zach couldn't have done this, didn't do it, and couldn't have. But the reason is not because you have to believe anything Zach says.
No.
The reason is because there are certain times, places, and locations that can't be changed, that also cannot coexist in the world that Jason Autry and Victor Dinsmore said.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take a look at where the phones were and weren't, when you take a look at where the truck was and wasn't, when you take a look at where the photographs put Zach and Dylan and Shane, when you see those things, Jason Autry's story about that morning cannot be true, nor can Victor Dinsmore's story be true. And if you take the stories of Jason Autry and Victor Dinsmore out of this trial, you have almost nothing left except snitches saying what they say Zach said, none of which was ever recorded, none of which was ever corroborated in any way other than the snitches said so. And many of those snitches were under considerable pressure to do so.
Yeah, and had benefits, possibly for
potentially
testifying the way they did. And it's interesting we're having this conversation tonight because I have been watching the au pair, the Brendan Banfield trial, and I feel a little bit like the exact same way about this particular trial because they have a singular um, witness that has testified, and it just screams Jason Autry to me. And when you start looking at the other evidence, and I'm waiting for it to all come in. I try to reserve judgment until I see everything, and the defense has just started clunkingly going through their case. But it appears so far to me that there are times the victim has been communicating with the other victim when the people who were supposed to have been perpetuating this and creating these accounts and communicating weren't anywhere near the device. And I'm like, well, this sounds very much like Zach Adams.
Right.
So I'm
Yeah.
trying to be really, really open-minded about it. And it may all fall apart. And I go, oh, yeah, no, that was a bunch of bunk. But as it stands right now, there are a lot of parallels with it because there is the witness that testified. There are a lot of things that don't work in her testimony. And it screams Jason Autry.
Yeah. So I say all that to say that what happens next is that, Zach gets convicted. He goes to prison. He files his petition for post-conviction relief. And at the beginning of this, what Doug Bates was working with was the Jason Autry recant, which eventually was not allowed into evidence.
Correct.
And also this idea that this ATM video might be available because Doug had gotten Dr. Katie Spirko, my podcast partner, to come onto the case. And Dr. Spirko, whatever else she is relentless. Tenacious. And she found the original ATM. And it was, she had gone through all these people and eventually found the guy that either did or used to work for the bank where it was. And he called her back one day and said, yeah, it's sitting right here. We got it. I don't know if it's of any use to you, but we got it. Dr. Spirko had also found an expert who believed that he might be able to uncover the rewriting, the way those discs work.
Right. I remember.
He believed he might be able to peel it back and find the original footage from that day.
Right.
Now, this is at a point in time when Doug Bates and Katie Spirko and Zach don't know that it's already in hand. So this is a moment where it's like this huge, we got the machine, we have an expert that might be able to recover this footage if we can get the machine tested. Okay. So Bates calls Jennifer Nichols and says, hey, I'm going to issue a subpoena for this machine. It's been located. And I want, as we discussed, I wanted to uphold our agreement that we would, let each other know that kind of thing. So I'm planning to get a subpoena issued for it. Well, the prosecution at that point issues a secret subpoena out of the administrative office of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation in Nashville and goes and picks it up and doesn't tell anyone. Until a week or two later, Dr. Spirko calls the bank guy back and says, what's up? And he goes, well, you got it.
You got it.
You already got it. The dudes came and picked it up. And apparently they had him sign something that said he wouldn't even say that had happened. So
have you ever heard that before?
I mean, I get it if they're actually involved in an ongoing investigation, that they would like witnesses or sources to understand that don't go tell the defendant that we're looking at them. I get that. I mean, I think that there's a proper.
This was a closed case as far as.
Yeah, this is not that situation at all, right?
Yeah.
So what happens is this machine is in TBI's hands, and the legal question at the moment was, well, is this potentially new evidence that could be a ground for relief? Okay. And so there was a legal question on the table. Now, at this point in time, No one on the defense side of the room knows that the video is already sitting on a hard drive
Right.
from 10 years ago. The state is taking the position that even if this ATM machine could yield this video, it's not new evidence, and therefore it could never be the basis for relief, yada, yada, yada. They're making a legal argument. So I pick up Jennifer Thompson, Zach's trial lawyer, one day. We go down to the courthouse, Dr. Spirko, me, Jennifer Thompson, and Kinsey, the intern. And we're there to watch this legal argument where the state is saying it doesn't matter what's on the ATM. It's not new evidence as a matter of law. And it can't be a reason that we waste any more time here. Dismiss, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're all sitting there watching this rather dull legal argument unfold. And I'm sitting right behind Zach and Doug Bates and Crystal Etu, Doug's second chair.
Co-counsel.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, the one of the prosecutors comes to the podium, the lectern, Chris Boiano, and he's making a legal argument about doesn't matter, it can't be new evidence, whatever. And Zach starts yanking on Crystal's coat. And he's like, that's it. That's the picture. That's us. And I'm close enough to hear this, and I'm looking around going, what? And I see it. And it's one of those moments where you're like, if you've ever seen like a meteor cross the daylight sky, you think, I know I saw something, but
what did
right,
I just
what
say?
You're like, did I
fooling me?
Right. Did I? And Zach is just like, there it is. There it is. There it is. That's us. That's the thing.
Wow.
So because it's court and not TV, Doug can't jump up and go, Your Honor, grab his computer and take a look at it.
They've got a picture that we don't know about.
Right. So this moment, as shocking and amazing as it was, goes unnoticed unless you happen to be in right there. Right. And so court ends without the thing even being acknowledged. And we're like, that cannot be what you've been talking to us about. What we think it is. That's too good to be true. How, we don't know where it came from, how they got it. For all we know, at that moment in time, they've gone and run all the tests, and sure enough, some expert did dig it up from the machine. We don't know. We don't know any of that stuff.
Right.
Well, we're riding back, and we're like baffled. Now, keep in mind, as shocking as this was for Crystal and Doug and me and Dr. Spirko and Kinsey the intern, imagine Jennifer Thompson,
and
who had been told, and Zach, but imagine those two who had been talking about the existence of this thing all this time.
Unbelievable.
As if they were trying to prove up that the Loch Ness Monster is real,
Right.
And yet now we've all seen Sasquatch. There it is. So this, I mean, it was an astonishing, breathtaking moment.
So court ends on that day. What happens after that then? How does this end up coming in front of Judge Bradbury then?
Well, so now we know, right? I say now Bates and Crystal Etu and Zach know it's there.
Right.
Now they just got to get it.
I told you.
Right. So they start the legal process of compelling the state to turn it over. Where'd you get it?
Right.
How'd you get it? All that.
Where is it? Yeah.
And another motion day was set weeks later. I mean, weeks.
That's why I'm asking, because I knew they weren't always like day after day after day.
No. This was weeks later. And Doug's got a motion filed to compel the state to turn this over. And the night before court, the state sends this response to this motion and says in this response, well, why are you so surprised? You've had it all along. Just go on your hard drive, click, 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 click. And they literally send screenshots of where to find it. No. And this is like 8 o'clock at night, the night before
This is
court.
in their response to the motion?
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Right. So
that's some audacity right there.
The night before, after hours, it comes through. And it's literally click here, click here, click here. And it's going through this whole hierarchy of folders. And then if I remember right, it says something like, and when you open this folder, install this program that's proprietary that you'll need. And then once you've installed it, go to this folder, this folder, this folder, this folder, blah, 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 blah. And it's file V8, whatever, whatever, whatever. And you can see it. It's been there the whole time.
Oh, I so need to try to get these legal documents because they're not sealed, are they?
No.
Oh, I will get on the hunt for that one because we're going to need to look at those.
You know someone who has a copy. So
yes, I do.
So now court is all about the next day is all about, what do you mean? It's
been there
and so then the question is, well, what's why'd you pick up the ATM? And why didn't you just tell us?
Yeah.
And why didn't you tell us?
Oh, shenanigans.
And if I remember right, this is the moment that Bradbury kind of got clued in on the shenanigans.
That was going to be my next question.
The state comes to court and confesses that in fact they had the machine for a while, because they issued a subpoena and picked it up. And he's looking. He's like, give me my file. And he's looking through the file and he's like, I don't see a subpoena for this. And they're like, well, see, what had happened was we didn't issue a subpoena out of this court where this case is pending. We had Kathy Ferguson, the TBI agent, do it as an administrative subpoena out of Nashville. So you wouldn't have seen it. He was not.
Why would you do that?
Right. Now we know from subsequent testimony that the reason they did that was because they thought it was a race to the machine, because apparently they were afraid that Dr. Spirko was going to drive her truck down and pick it up and make off with it or something. Some absurd, some ridiculous,
stupid Jennifer Nichols. That's what
right.
That is right
there. So Bradbury was clearly not particularly happy that they had done this. So instead of, now it's there. Now this this skeleton has dug itself out of the grave.
So do you think that is one of the most compelling arguments that was made for Judge Bradbury to agree to a post-conviction relief, all of the hearings that we had? Because I know it's hard to even get to that level.
Yeah. Well, by then he'd committed to having a hearing. He'd set the evidentiary hearing. He'd already said he was going to hear from witnesses.
And that's also when he decided about Autry's recant, whether he was going to let that in and all.
Yeah, that came next. But he'd already said, we're having witnesses. I'm hearing testimony. I think
that had to make the state nervous.
Well, and we'll find out. I mean, Bradbury's on the clock to write his opinion.
Yes.
We'll find out. Probably what he thought of all that. I suspect the importance of that ATM video was a couple things. Number one, it showed that it showed that the state was even in 2025 willing to play hide the ball.
Yes.
Even while they said,
shocking to me, as if
they are shameless.
As if the original trial was not shocking enough. Their despicable behavior in that. And then
they
to double
down
on it, 8 years later, like this was your out. You could have looked like a hero and been like, oh, yeah, well, those people, we came in and we fixed everything. But no, you were like, oh, no,
Well, keeping in
this is
mind,
what
of
we're
course, that
doing.
that
What?
Amy Wyrick is Jennifer Nichols' former boss.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
draw your own
There's
conclusions.
that. Yeah.
Um, I think that the importance of that ATM video is several layers. One layer is optics. It revealed plainly and undeniably that the state was willing to continue was continuing to play hide the ball with this very important piece of evidence, or at least a piece of evidence that the defense thought was important. Now the state continues to say it makes no difference where he was at 11:12, as if chanting that over and over again makes it true.
Right.
It matters, of course, because when I started looking at this, well, let me finish the. I think the other layers are much more legally compelling, and that is that it when you take that photograph that is time stamped at 11:12 a.m., you have two ends of the timeline
Yep.
irrefutably established, and not by addicts or interested people. You don't have to believe anyone. You just have to
It's not
believe
people.
that the machines tell time correctly or whatever. You got Holly at 8 a.m. and what happens to her phone for the next
Yep.
hour and a half. And you got 11:12 Zach in Parsons in the truck. And in between there, Zach is either somehow involved in her kidnap, rape, and murder, or he isn't. The only people that say what Zach was doing in between 8 a.m. and 11:12 is Jason Autry.
Yep.
And so when I started looking at this, I realized, and I don't want to take too much credit for this, but my opinion and conclusion right away was there are some bright beacons here. There's 8 a.m. at Holly's house. There's 9:25 at Gooch Creek, and there's 11:12 at the ATM. And the timeline, it didn't take me very long to realize that Jason Autry's timeline can be broken into a million pieces
Very easily.
at either end. You
Yes.
can either take Jason Autry's timeline and attempt to run it forward from Gooch Creek, and it won't work, or you can try to run it. You can try to work it backwards
Backwards.
from the ATM, and it won't work, because at either end of this timeline is something you cannot manipulate
Or refute.
or refute. And so
Yep.
this is why, well, I don't want to take any credit for it. Had I been doing it, I would have done pretty much what Doug did, which was demonstrate that you can't take the immutable evidence that requires you to assess no one's credibility at all, Holly's phone, Zach's
Right.
phone, and the ATM, and make Autry's story work. It cannot be done. And if it can't be
Yeah.
done, and the way we know that is things that the state could have and should have known in 2017,
Oh, they knew.
then they should never have allowed Jason Autry to tell the story he told.
Yeah, they knew. They knew exactly what they were doing. Everything about that trial was inflammatory. It was emotion based. It was prejudicial. The way that the state behaved in front of the jury. I mean, when we rewatched the trial on my channel, I a couple of things I said over and over again is this fondling of evidence that they would do when witnesses were testifying, and then they would do the show and tell thing where they take the piece, and I'm like, what? I have never ever seen that done in a trial, and I've watched a lot of trials that we have show and tell. I was like, what is going on?
Well, to
That
be
was
honest with
all
yeah,
emotion based.
there's that. I I I don't know to me, what is the most appalling and disappointing? That which happened in the courtroom or that which happened
Oh,
outside?
yeah,
Because if you don't have what happened outside the courtroom, you don't wind up with what happened in the courtroom.
yeah,
And that's specifically, I mean, the coercion of Jason Autry and Victor Dinsmore as witnesses to tell this, to make up this timeline to implicate Zach and Dylan and Shane and Jason Autry in this crime. Um, if the state hypothetically had never spoken to Jason Autry or Victor Dinsmore in the way that we know that they did, and they had just said, "Get those guys in here and let's find out what they know," that it wouldn't have happened
right,
like this at all.
right.
Um,
So, one of
so
the another question I have, and especially because you had mentioned her earlier. So, Amy Wyrick is the one that actually handled these post-conviction relief hearings.
she came in last, I want to say last spring, whenever it was Jennifer Nichols got appointed to the bench in Gallatin.
Okay, well, that's what I was trying to get to. My actual question was Jennifer Nichols at one time was going to be practicing law in this case instead of Amy Wyrick. And so that's what happened. She was
Yeah,
appointed by Governor
and
Lee. Is that what
yeah,
happened?
and that's, so
Which was
um
probably, can you imagine? I mean, Mr. Bowtie Bates has the patience of Job. I think that he would probably have lost his patience with
I
her.
think I just happen to be rereading Job right now. And everybody says the patience of Job, and I tend to think what Job had was faith, not necessarily patience. But
Ah,
I digress. Yeah, so that's another interesting timeline, right?
yeah.
They convict Zach. Brent Booth gets Agent of the Year. He retires. Dennis Benjamin slinks off into some hole. Um,
Yeah, like where
but
actually
Jennifer
did that?
Nichols, oh, Dennis Benjamin is living on the lake with a
Oh,
boat and a lakefront house.
oh.
I think he's living in West Tennessee in retirement, and according to him, in very poor health that's rapidly declining. Um,
Ah,
so Jennifer Nichols is subsequently appointed to be the commissioner of the Department of Children's Services, and that is its own fiasco. If you Google Jennifer Nichols Department of Children's Services, you will go down a rabbit hole. It probably won't surprise you, but you will be
no.
shocked because for several years she led a scandal-plagued DCS that lost children, had children die in their custody. It was a fiasco, and she winds up. I think she resigned from that position. She goes to practice as an assistant district attorney in Gallatin, Sumner County, Tennessee, just north of Nashville, and puts her name in for a seat that's been created on the bench in Gallatin. And lo and behold, is appointed judge. Now, this is the second time she's been appointed
I
judge.
know.
First time in Memphis. So she's been
Couldn't get
appointed judge.
reelected.
I don't, honestly, I've never really looked at what happened in Memphis, but
Oh,
she
she
didn't.
didn't get reelected. She ran and they didn't elect her after she'd been judged. They were like, "Yeah, deuces, honey, you need to get out of here."
Yeah. So Jennifer Nichols gets appointed judge in Memphis, loses or quits this, whatever happens. She runs the Zach Adams fiasco. She gets appointed commissioner of DCS. There are people still mad at her about that. And then that ends in disaster. She goes to Gallatin, where she's not from,
Right.
and gets a job up there and eventually gets appointed to the bench. And she's now facing opposition in an effort. She's trying to keep that seat in a
Oh, we
primary
know.
in May. And, it, like, um, I don't even know what to say
She
about that.
Yeah, she's some
And just in case you're watching, no, I do not practice law in Sumner County, Tennessee anymore. That burned that
Oh,
boat.
I hope she's watching because I find her to be one of the most unpleasant individuals to walk this planet. And I
You
don't
know,
understand why she has a permanent stick stuck up her hiney.
you
And
know,
it drives me insane.
you know, somewhere when I was a younger lawyer, I was very judgmental of people. Um, and I can see what you're saying. Um,
It's
I
her
even
behavior. It's
as
not her.
cynical as I have become, and justifiably so, even now, I'd be willing to bet you that if you lived next door to Jennifer Nichols and all you knew her was your next door neighbor, and you just waved and said hi and kept your yard mowed, and
I,
I
I,
don't
I'm,
know.
I'm
I don't know. I don't know her. I am I completely understand why anyone who knows her only in this context um, has a
I think
harsh
she's
judgment.
I think she's one of those people that's on the HOA and she goes around and tells everybody in the neighborhood that their grass needs to be cut and that
Even look, my assessment of Jennifer Nichols is really limited to what I've seen her do,
mine too.
and
But
and
but
and
it's
so
told me a lot. It has
well, yeah,
told me a lot about her.
I think you can draw a lot of conclusions and inferences.
I, y-
But at the same
Here's the thing.
time, there are probably people who are victims of crimes that she prosecuted, that she put people in prison who should be in
Oh,
prison, and those victims think she hung the moon. So
I am not
now,
saying that she doesn't hit a home.
none of that excuses what happened here, because this is
When
astonishingly and atrociously and egregiously bad.
so before she I'm trying to remember. I saw her in the hearings, the PCR hearings before we rewatched the trial.
Oh, did you
And
watch her testimony at the
I
PCR?
watched her testimony at the PCR hearings,
Really
and I
bad.
was astounded at her behavior there. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to wipe the slate clean. Maybe she's just got a bad attitude about these particular attorneys or whatever. And so I watched the trial, and I will tell you, Dana, the moment I decided that she was probably one of the most despicable human beings to walk this planet is what she did to Holly Bobo's mother. When I watched that, that enraged me. There is absolutely, positively no reason any of those personal belongings of Holly's needed to be brought into the trial the way they were through her mother. That's never done. You always
Yeah,
have a forensic specialist do it.
I, you
That's
know,
when I went, I'm done.
so yeah, I get it. As someone who has to make trial strategy, and anticipate what the other side will do when I get there, I'm going to leave open the possibility that, that Mrs. Bobo, um, volunteered or
She didn't
graciously
know.
or accepted. Oh,
She didn't know that was going to happen.
I would like to know that before I form an opinion. I do think it was.
She
I
was
do think
asked
it was.
afterward and she said, I did not know she was going to do that. That's why
Oh, okay.
she flipping collapsed on the. I mean, that is just an awful thing to do.
All
As a
right.
human being, you don't do that to a victim.
Yeah, that I would say this. Only if the victim's mother, in this case Mrs. Bobo, agreed
Yes.
passionately to be the person to do that, would you do that? Any other explanation is not okay.
Yeah.
And so I
And
don't I didn't see whatever interview Mrs. Bobo may have given that said I didn't know that was going to happen. And if she didn't know, then that was really awful. You should never do that to someone.
yep.
Hand the victim's mother her things that she took with her when she was
Panties.
kid. Which,
Panties.
yeah, that was
Oh, I get
I
so
yeah
angry
I
about it. It was so unnecessary.
yeah
And
I there's a there, and I hate to I mean, I hate to be this cynical, but to be honest with you, um, stuff like that doesn't even get in my top 10 of things to be mad about in this case anymore. Um,
I get
because
that.
because there are things that are like um, merely poor judgment or merely callous, that are shameful in this case. Um,
Yeah.
I'm looking at intentional coercion of perjury
Yes.
to convict a man that is
Innocent man.
demonstrably innocent. And I keep saying this to people, and you know, at some point, I mean, it needs to be said. Um, Nearly everything that Doug Bates and Crystal E2 put into evidence in front of Judge Bradbury was available to both the
Mm.
prosecution and the defense before the trial. And so this is not a case where new DNA technology has come about since the conviction. This is not a case where a new piece of evidence was discovered for the first time ever. This is not a
Right.
situation where a long lost witness came forward and positively exonerated that's not what happened. There's not a victim that recanted here, of course. This is a case that, had it been tried properly to begin with, number one, probably wouldn't have been tried. But number two,
Correct.
would have looked a lot more like what you just watched Doug Bates do
Yes.
than what you saw when you watched the original trial from 2017. And for that, I fault Jennifer Thompson for not knowing what was on her hard drive and what to do with
Correct.
it. And I also fault Jennifer Nichols for probably knowing what was on the hard drive and what to do with it, to get the conviction that she wanted.
So here's we could see when we were watching the replay of the trial, you can literally see in real time Jennifer Thompson losing her ability to fight for her client. I mean, you literally could see it. We would be watching, we're like, ask again, ask again. Because let's be honest, she didn't just have Jennifer Nichols that she had to fight.
She was fighting
She
Creed McGinley.
Exactly, she had Judge McGinley that she had to fight too,
Yep.
and he was so dismissive, so unbelievably unprofessional and dismissive, and he may be a fantastic, wonderful man, and that's great, but I mean, I have had great employees before that I really, really like as people, but they suck as an employee working for me. You can't work for me if you're not gonna do your job, and I might think you're a great person and I like you, but I'm not gonna keep you on my team. And
Yeah, I've been in front of Judge McGinley a little bit, not in this case, of course, but back when he was on the bench, I was in front of him a little bit out there, and he was kind of a gentleman. I don't want to say county. He was a gentleman on the bench. He
very
wasn't.
likable.
He was kind of what you get when you go out in the rural West Tennessee, especially then. It's
Right.
it's 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 getting more diverse, but when you go out in rural counties around Tennessee 20 years ago, you know, you were probably going to be standing in front of an older white guy who
Yep.
talked and sounded a lot like your pawpaw.
Yep.
Um, and that's kind of what he was. And he was a trial judge for a long time. Um, I think what happened in this case was, um, he, like many people, came to the conclusion that this was a waste of time, and that
Well, that's clear.
he
He would do
seemed to
this to
be,
her.
yeah, he seemed to be a little impatient and resentful that he was
No, we
actually
don't need to get into all that. That's
having to do
hearsay.
all this,
Yeah, he was
when it was so obvious to everyone how guilty Zach was, and that it was he got to the point where it seemed that he was offended that Zach would maintain his innocence in the face of all this.
or wanna put
Um,
up any sort of defense.
yeah, so um,
Insulted by it. Like,
yeah,
"How dare you waste my precious time? I should be watching football."
yeah, well, so it was disappointing to me to watch that stuff happen. I will say that,
I was shocked.
yeah, I've interviewed Jennifer Thompson a couple times, spent hours with her talking about this case, including taking her to that courthouse twice now.
She seemed
Um,
heartbroken.
she was heartbroken. And at the same time, I have to be objective about it. If I'm going to be critical of Judge McGinley and Jennifer Nichols, then I
Oh,
can't spare Jennifer Thompson. Um, she could have and should have done this differently. And
absolutely.
I get it. I mean, she was trying desperately to defend a man that she genuinely believed was innocent. But I think, to use the cliche, I think at some point she lost sight of the forest for the trees.
Yes.
And she was also, just browbeaten.
She was circling the drain and didn't even know.
Yeah. So I've watched the entire trial, more than once, but I've seen parts of it a number of times. And my my takeaway from her cross-examination of many of those witnesses, and even some of the direct, is that you can know when she scores a point only if you know the case as well as I do,
Right.
which is a complete failure,
For a
because
jury.
she's not trying to score points with me.
Right.
She's trying to score points with a jury that
Right.
does not know this case like
Correct.
this. And so, just as a strategy on cross examination, you should score points with either with every question or a series of questions that leads to a big
Yes.
score.
A
Like,
crescendo.
you have to set up. Sometimes you have to set
Yep.
up your touchdown, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So maybe not every question, but it should be
No.
obvious when you spike the football why you asked the last six or
Right.
eight or 10 to get there. And
Yes.
over and over and over again, I would be like, well, yes, that's a good point that she made, but it would be wrapped with
So much
things that
other
even I
stuff.
didn't understand what the
Right.
point
Right.
was.
I
Um,
completely agree. I completely agree. She needed someone to kind of jerk her back down to reality and be like, "Hey, you are not hitting with this jury the things that you think you are. Like it's not landing like you think it's landing."
well, and you can't always know that, because the jury doesn't hold up a 9 like the skate
Right.
judge, right?
Right. Yeah.
You don't know, but dramatic. Yes, she never closed the circle.
Yep.
Well, she obscured the points
Right.
in nothing, and then didn't like. I also think that that too often she sat down on a dead note,
Oh
like
gosh, yes.
too often she was like, no further questions, and you're like,
What?
you're gonna end with that,
Right.
like like you know
Yeah, I feel like there was the disconnect with the jury and and not like reading the room kind of thing. She just didn't have the ability to read the room and get to the point, just get to the point. Sometimes you can't go tap dancing all around 50-12 ways from Sunday. Just
well, and if you're
get
gonna
to it.
ask people about, and your grandma was so and so, and your aunt was so and you lived on this road and they lived on that road, it should be eventually obvious why you did all that. Now,
Right.
that
Right.
said, sometimes you get a witness up there and you kind of have to get them in a tunnel with you and connect. And sometimes the only way you can do that, especially with a witness that you either know or anticipate is going to be, hostile or
Mhm.
aloof, is to connect with them and draw them into a conversation before you move. And they may not be somebody that you're trying to like crush. They may
Right.
just be somebody that you
That
need to
has a
either,
critical piece.
yeah, they may be somebody that you need to discredit a little bit or a lot. They may be somebody that you need to get a point out of them that they know that the prosecution didn't. And so you're not trying to take them down. You're trying to, like,
No.
but sometimes you got to get with a witness and vibe with them a minute. So you might say, now we've never met, right? And you grew up here, right? And so you of course Coach T from the football,
Correct.
and
Build
so
some rapport.
but yeah, a little bit of rapport building and that kind of thing. And then
Well, it seemed like she had this ability. Have you ever had a disagreement with someone and they are just spewing their position over and over and over again, and you're like, but I have questions. What about this? And they just keep spewing their position over and over and over again. They have absolutely no concept that you do not understand what they are trying to tell you.
yeah,
That's how a
well,
lot of it felt.
yeah, and sometimes all you can really do with someone is sort of stir up a lot of dust and muddy the water and make the
Hope for the
jury
best.
confused and confuse people. I mean, sometimes the best you can do is confusion.
Confuse them. Yep.
Um, but there were moments in that trial that I thought she really should have just absolutely lasered in on,
Yep. Keep going. Keep digging.
and make them say it. Make them say it.
Yep.
And
You did
I've
too.
many times I've looked at a witness and said, "Sir, I've been doing this a long time. You and I both know why I'm asking you this question, and I'm not going to stop until I get an answer to
Yep.
this question. Your Honor, would you instruct the witness to answer this question?" And then you
Yeah.
lay it out, because a lot of witnesses get up there and they're cagey, they're streetwise, they're smart, they think they're smarter than you, whatever it
Yep.
is.
Yep. We see all of those.
That's not really what happened here. I mean,
No. She
she
got
got lost.
bamboozled by herself.
Well, and I kind of think what happened with her was that um, I think I know that she 100% believed in Zach's innocence when no
Oh,
one else did. That's clear.
absolutely.
However,
Absolutely.
I think the strategy seemed to be more eke out a reasonable doubt, not guilty verdict by trying to muddy things up with the
Instead of just
Autreys of the
putting up
Dinsmore of the
evidence.
world, and then make Britt look like a really bad actor and get the jury to go, I don't know, I'm not convinced. Instead of what Doug did,
Right.
which was say, this man is actually innocent, and I'm going to show you that he's
So
actually innocent.
that is a fantastic segue because I wanted to talk about my boyfriend, Mr. Bowtie Bates.
Dog.
How did it come about that he was actually the one? I know that Judge Bradbury appointed him. How did that come about? Because my understanding was that he does not practice this particular type of law.
Well, okay, couple things.
So what happened?
Number
Give us
one.
the scoop. Spill the tea some more.
Yeah. So I don't think Doug will mind me telling you this. So I've known Doug a long time. I knew his dad before that. They're kind of an institution down there.
Absolutely.
And when you are, let's say, and I jokingly say I'm kind of a country lawyer, but I'm not. I say I'm a street lawyer. Right, my office is on the ground level. You don't have to go up in a big high rise. You don't have to go up in a big high rise to meet me. I'll meet you in the parking lot at the Publix. Doug's a lawyer from down in Centerville, Tennessee. It's about an hour from anywhere. Doug is a very let's say modest guy. He genuinely is.
Very humble.
So when Doug says, I'm just a divorce lawyer from Centerville, that's understating the case by a lot. In fact, Doug got
it was clear in the court.
Well, here's the thing. Doug comes from 5 generations and seven Bates lawyers in his family tree.
Yep.
And when you are that, when you're that guy in a town like Centerville, and somebody shows up with the money and it's a go to the courthouse case, you go to the courthouse. So this was not Doug's first criminal case.
No.
And in fact, Doug got a not guilty verdict in a murder case a week ago. So don't let Doug pull the wool over your eyes by claiming he's just a country mouse who doesn't know anything about criminal law. Okay. He's a hell of a lawyer. And he'll never be outworked on a case. Okay.
No.
Now, what is true is that what you have watched Doug Bates do for the last year and a half, nearly no lawyer will ever do. To go that deep, that long
That's why I asked.
into this niche of post conviction relief is extraordinarily uncommon, and nearly no lawyer will ever do it, because you have to have the opportunity, and then you have to have the case, and the opportunities are handed out, kind of like poison pills. No one wants this,
Right,
okay?
right.
And then the case has to be something that you can, like there's got to be some meat on the bone,
Sure.
okay? And so now to answer the question more directly, what actually happened was Doug went over to try a case on behalf of a client in a criminal case, and the client was overcharged with something. And
Mm.
Doug spent 2 days in front of Judge Bradbury, in front of a jury,
Oh,
and got his client acquitted of the overcharged. And I'll this is not what Doug said, but I'll say it. The guy probably got convicted of what he did, but it wasn't
right.
the more serious charge.
Exactly.
And apparently, the next day, Judge Bradbury called him and said, "I thought you did a great job, Mr. Bates. The court, would you be willing to do the court a favor?" And Doug, I've had this call. What do
Wow.
you say, right?
Right. Yeah.
Who dis? New phone. Who dis?
Nah,
Right?
I'm busy.
Nah, Judge. Nah. No thanks,
Yeah.
man. So that's how he got appointed.
Wow. I mean, if you believe in divine intervention or you believe in fate happening, when things like this, when stars line up a certain way, it's because something is meant to happen the way that it was predetermined. I
I,
very much believe that.
I do too, because as I've talked to Doug over time, um, I told him that I know a lot of good lawyers. I don't know a lot of good lawyers that would have and could have done what he did,
Unbelievable.
because,
It was masterful.
well, it wasn't just masterful in the courthouse, but long before you saw that,
All the
you
research, all of the preparation. Yeah.
yeah, even before all that, Doug had to make the conscious decision to burn whatever bridges needed to be burned. Um,
Oh,
and that's the kind of thing you can only do if you have both the gravitas and the practice to say, I'm wherever this takes me, I'll go.
well,
Um,
and
and number two, you also have to have the courage, which is the kind of thing that you get from your mentors. Um, you know, if Judge Bradbury had called some lawyer who was still trying to cut their teeth, who was 4 years in, who couldn't afford to burn bridges and alienate allies or potential allies, or make enemies, Zach's petition would have been DOA.
yeah,
And so Doug's, what I've labeled generational honor,
yes.
and at one point I told Doug, time to go earn that name.
Well, and that explains to me a lot in his closing argument when he was outraged about the behavior of
You know,
people in
the,
his profession. You could feel
mhm.
he's not one
So,
to be very emotional, but you could feel the
and,
outrage.
and he spent,
Rightfully so.
yeah, he spent a year and a half earning the right to to display that outrage.
Yep.
Because if you walk into a courtroom with a judge you do not know or know only a little, which was the case here,
Mhm.
and you jump off the top rope on day one and start saying, "This is outrageous," what do you think is going to happen? That judge is going to be like, "Settle down,"
Yeah.
right?
Lose all
Like,
credibility.
yeah, and so what you saw in that closing was something that Doug had earned the right to do, not only over decades of being who he is, but also in particular in the year and a half or 2 years that he'd spent earning that right in front of Judge Bradbury. Because you can't come in and say that on day one. You have to show him
Yep.
And then you can say it. But I don't know if you know this or not, but the anecdote that Doug told during his closing about the district attorney, the assistant district attorney who had resigned his position and published his resignation letter in the
Oh,
local
yes.
paper and accused publicly a judge of corruption as the reason for his resignation. That assistant district attorney was Doug Bates III, his father.
Mm-hmm.
And Doug Bates III was sitting 2 rows behind me when Doug Bates IV told that anecdote, and I knew it. Um, and I'm pretty sure Bradbury knew it too. And it was.
Oh,
It
I'm sure
was.
he did. And I'll tell you, everybody in the chat, I just have to let them know this. I literally did not get any chats for probably almost 10 minutes, and now they've all come in. So if there was a question, I'm trying to grab what I can here.
And just in my defense, I'm on an iPad, so I don't see any chat. So I'm not ignoring you. She is. I'm gonna.
Way to throw me under the bus, Dana.
Hey, I'm just riding. So I am not seeing any of the questions, so I will trust
and I'm our
gracious host. Okay.
I'm going to get to some in just a minute here, but it's always interesting to me, and I try to explain to people when I am talking about this case and talking about, Mr. Bates and everything that he did, and I always say, what the Bates family is what the Murdaugh family could have been,
and may have been once.
I think. Well,
I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I think there was a lot of corruption through power. People get drunk with power, and
yeah, but you don't know. I mean, I don't know when that might have started.
I think it was just a few generations ago,
right?
So there probably before that was some true, honest.
Mm-hmm. You would think so, right?
And
you would think so.
Yeah, but that's not.
Yeah, a couple of things. Yeah, and it was oh, by the way, that's what I do. I drink coffee, I hate people, and I know things.
Yes,
that's pretty much what it is. I saw this shirt come up on my Amazon, and I was like, "Yes,
that is
send it."
Funny.
So, during that last day of court, Doug III, Doug's dad, I chatted with him a few times, and when the state ended their proof with Boat Guy, I went back to talk to Mr. Bates, and he said, he looked and he said, "Never end with a witness like that." I was like,
awful.
Noted, sir.
So awful.
And he's quite a character. I mean, if you like Doug, you'd love his dad. That's all I'll say.
Oh, well, we adored Mr. Bates, Mr. Bowtie Bates here. Absolutely adored
the bowtie baddie.
So a question I have, and then I'm going to get into everybody else's questions. Do you think if Judge Bradbury rules that relief is necessary in Zach's case, do you think the state is going to retry?
Well, procedurally, what they'll do is they'll appeal.
Well, I know they have to do the appeal and all of that, but I'm saying when all that gets, run.
Well, and I don't mind. I mean, look, I'm going to be involved in this in some role, wherever it goes. And so I don't mind. I don't mind revealing what I would expect, even if it may be strategically unwise to do so. I think if after Bradbury rules and after the appellate process plays out, if this conviction has in fact been set aside, and that and vacating that conviction has been upheld by the appellate courts that touch it or decline to, I suspect that two things will happen. Number one, I think the state will come to Zach with an offer to essentially time served plea out on an Alford case. In other words, you don't have to admit you did it.
Right.
Just admit that there was evidence that would convict you potentially, and you can go home.
Okay.
That would be a nice tidy bow for the state.
For the state
to conclude this, if it winds up back at Zach is not yet convicted of anything and they have to make a decision. I think they'll offer him a plea. I don't know what might happen then. How tempting it would be to say, I'll go home. I don't give a damn what I have to say. Right.
Right.
Like, I just want to I want out. I've been here long enough. That would be a nice, tidy bow for the state. I expect that. We also have to keep in mind that we don't know what prosecution team might have it then. It is
Right.
possible that this Memphis cabal will somehow manage to stay involved. It's also possible to be taken away from them and given to someone who has no political connection and no reason to attempt to do anything other than the right thing here. But imagine how unhappy that person would be. You're a prosecutor from East Tennessee and you get a call and they go, have we got something for you? You get to pick up the Holly Bobo case in tatters. Come on down. I don't think that person's going to hold a press conference and say, we've reviewed the evidence and we've talked to the witnesses that remain available, and we don't think we can make this case. We're dismissing these charges. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
I know that will never happen with Wyricks and Nichols of the world.
Oh no.
I don't think that'll happen with any prosecutor, but it maybe, possibly. I don't want to sell anyone short, especially someone we haven't even gotten the name of yet. But that's probably the right thing to do. But I don't think it would happen. So I think what's probably going to happen, if it winds up back in the trial court after all the appeals and everything, and Zach's conviction has been set aside, I think they'll offer him a plea, time served, go home, just take a best interest plea. If Zach turns that down, I think the state's dilemma is, do they hold that press conference and bail, or do they put the case on and lose? And frankly, I think a lot of prosecutors would put the case on and lose, because then they can leave and go out on the courthouse steps and say, we respect the jury verdict.
Yep.
Nothing to see.
And I got to tell you, if I were in Zach's position, knowing how they railroaded him, it would be a very, very big pill for me to swallow to take an Alford.
Well, yeah, but he's been in prison since 2014.
I know.
So
I know.
He's never mind Dylan. So
yeah, that's a whole different story.
Right. So I think that's what I think the state would offer it. Would Zach take it? I don't know. If he did, I wouldn't blame him. No, gosh, no, I wouldn't.
You
go get your shit and go home. Yeah.
Heck yeah,
a lot to be said for that, right?
Get out of there. Go back to your life.
Here's the thing too. And I don't look. It's not my job to tell Zach Adams what to do. If somehow it ever is my job, fine. But for now, if I were talking to him and he was sitting there with an Alford plea, time served, go home, I would say probably, hey man, prison sucks. I don't have to tell you that. You can leave. And honestly, some people are never going to think you didn't do it.
Right.
And some people are going to be open-minded to the fact that now that all this has happened, whether you get acquitted by a jury or simply say, get me out of here,
right,
those people are going to be okay. And the people that are never going to believe you didn't do it are never going to believe you didn't do it, even if you go to trial and get acquitted. So, tell me what you want me to do. I'll do it.
All right. Mimi is in the house, has a question. Can you ask him if Zach gets a new trial, if they can test the blonde hair that they didn't do DNA testing on in the first trial?
Answer to that is yes, but it may not take until then to do that. Dylan Adams has the opportunity to file a post-conviction relief petition of his own, and potentially that could include DNA testing of not only the hair, but other physical evidence. So it is possible that the DNA testing you've asked about will be conducted, but not exactly because Zach's on trial again.
Right. Blind Hog searching for an acorn, or for acorn, says, when does the judge find out the defense it in court on
saw it in court on accident?
Saw it in court on accident.
He knows. It's been said. It's been
Um,
said, and I believe it's been written. So he knows.
I might have missed it. Oh, this is Aunt Sent. I might have missed it, but how long does the judge have to rule? So if I did my counting correctly, it's sometime at the end of March. That's with the additional 30 days that he asked for because it's only supposed to be 60 days. But he said, I
Correct.
can't get it done in 60 days. I'm going to take the additional 30. I think it gets us somewhere in the 28th, 29th ish area of March
I
is
agree.
when that actually is.
Now, what's the penalty if he doesn't? Nothing.
He seems pretty stand-up guy for
Oh,
it.
he's definitely a stand-up guy, but what he's
So
dealing with here is
it's just a
thousands of
lot.
he's dealing with thousands of pages of transcripts, hundreds of exhibits.
He'd just be smarter
Um,
to rewatch the trial,
yeah, but he still has to
read all the
write. Yeah,
sidebars.
he has to do what's called a findings. He has to write findings of fact and conclusions of law. So he has to go through and recite what he
Correct.
finds the facts that were established to be. You can imagine what that's like with a 15-day or
Oh,
however many days of trial it was. So,
I think it was 10 days of trial. And then you've got to think about all the testimony he heard in the hearings.
right. And all the videos and transcripts that were submitted.
Right. Gina McManus, by the way, thank you for both for covering this case. I'm a crossover sub from Defense Diaries because of that Thursday night. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming and hanging out at Ms. Demeanor's house. We're happy
No
to
doubt.
have you.
Thank you for
Uh,
having us.
Jennifer T. Hill, by the way, Ms. D, I'm loving your gray cover you're wearing. I am so glad that you noticed it. This was a Christmas gift from someone very close to my family that we have adopted as a grandmother to my son and pseudo mother to both my husband and myself. I met her in when I was in the hospital with having my double mastectomy surgery, and she got this, and it is so soft, y'all. It's fantastic, and it's got fringy stuff on the bottom. Y'all can't see. It's very fancy. So I know you were really waiting to hear all about that, Dana.
I'm just ashamed I hadn't mentioned it first.
Well, don't be. Don't be ashamed at all. Okay, I do have another question because I know I talked to you and Katie briefly through text messages. Oh, DB says that Dana has the same one.
The same cover, yeah. I saw yours backstage, and I was like, "Well, we can't. This would be embarrassing." I had to get rid of it.
Oh, that's too funny.
Next time, I'll get my red one.
Yeah, hey, whatever. What was I even asking? I lost. I've been texting back and forth with you and Katie about CrimeCon.
Hmm.
Have you heard anything from the CrimeCon people?
We talked to one of their bookers
Way
last
long
year,
time ago. You need
and
to check with them again.
well, at the time, we were just claiming to be important.
Right.
Now, I guess we're claiming to be slightly more important than we were then.
I think they would absolutely. Have you ever been to CrimeCon?
No.
So they have these breakout sessions.
Yeah, I looked into it a little bit.
And so they would absolutely love to have this case as one of the breakout sessions.
Well, I'm cynical. And so when Dr. Spirko and I have talked about, well, what are we doing here? What's the game plan and all that? I said, well, Katie, first things first, Zach's got to get his conviction vacated because convicted murderer stays convicted is not a story.
Well, but what is a
So-
story in this case is all the shenanigans, the corruption that existed. So
Well,
even
only if it's vindicated.
I still think
Otherwise,
it's a story. Even
don't get me wrong, I agree, but the 2020s of the world are not going to come down here and go, if Judge Bradbury denies this petition, they're not going national media is not going to circle around and bang on our door and
Right.
say, tell us all tell us all the things that went wrong in the second round where your convicted murderer was
Right.
convicted, remains convicted. It's like, that's not a story. So we've laughed about, joked about halfway that, maybe one day we'll be at CrimeCon with Zach.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. I see some comments. CrimeCon drives me crazy. Ashley Lawrence said, I love going to CrimeCon. I went in September, and the reason I like it is because it gives me an opportunity to feel like I get a lot more in-depth information on specific cases. And sometimes they're cases that I didn't know anything about. For instance, Roblox. I did not know anything about all of the craziness that exists as far as grooming children and everything that's done through Roblox. And so those are the things that when I go, I'm like, wow, I had no idea. So I like getting that additional information. And I know she always has the smaller venues, but Beth Karras is amazing. I could listen to Beth Karras talk for like 4 hours straight because she has so much knowledge. CrimeCon is cool if it's your thing. Now I don't do the
I have a
meet and
confession.
greet.
Yeah, I have a confession. I don't know anything about any case except this one. So
Well, and you did,
I would be
and that's
I would,
okay.
and I didn't set out to become
Right.
true crime podcast famous or anything like that.
No, you're a defense attorney.
I'm a defense attorney who saw an injustice and decided to bring, some attention to it as best I could. And these days, if you've got an iPad and a microphone, you can be a podcaster. So here we are.
That's right. See? Yeah, even a crazy middle-aged old lady that went to Donna Adelson's trial. That's a different one. That happened.
I do know
before.
something about that. I do know something about that.
So, is there anything you wanted to share with all of us as far as tea, things that we may not have known about that would be fascinating or interesting?
I can't say much. However,
However,
however, how do I say? What will I say? We talked about Dr. Spirko being tenacious and
yes,
relentless, and she's not done. And so, here in the near-ish future, there could be another bombshell.
shut the front door. Really?
We're working on it.
Oh, in reference to this case?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, do you have timing for this?
It's not nailed down, but we're hoping to have something in the next couple of weeks that would be as big a revelation as anything we've done yet.
And you'll come on my channel to do that, right?
Of course. Absolutely. What we'll probably do, just to be fair, is publish what we have and then do the book tour. So
okay, well, I'll definitely be keeping my eyes peeled. I have a lot of things to be excited about because we've got
there's
Super Bowl coming, we've got the Olympics coming. These are all things that I don't know how I'm going to live stream with everybody because I got all this other stuff I got to participate,
right.
spectate.
Well, you just need an ice storm like we got here, and then you won't go anywhere.
I have no interest in ice storms or snow or ice or
me neither.
Cold weather. So you keep that right where you are.
Yeah, well, it turned out that today was just like any other Monday. I got up and drank coffee and worked at my desk at home. So, but yeah, I haven't been anywhere. I don't know when I'll be leaving my house. I had some court today, canceled, tomorrow canceled. So we'll see.
Yeah. And where I used to live in Tennessee, they, north of where I used to live got hit hard, but where I used to live, did not, It got
Oh,
some
we've
ice,
got
but it not like what y'all have there.
no, we've got tens or hundreds of thousands of people without power even now, and not far from where I am. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
need another hint. Can I buy a vowel? Um, Let me just put it this way. How can I say this? Uh, it would be an enormous story that uh, the substance of the story wouldn't be particularly shocking, but the the fact that the story would be told and confirmed would be a big part of the story. So it's kind
Wow.
of it's not we're not about to like reveal that, we're not doing a Geraldo opening
Oh, the
the
vault.
safes, the vault stuff. So I don't want to oversell it. Um but we're working on something that would fall in the category, I think, of I cannot believe you got that story, and it just makes me even more convinced that this was a rotten process. So
Mm. Well,
and
we'll
um
definitely
and
be watching.
Katie, listen, sometimes Katie calls me and she says, I I'm this close to getting so and so, and I'm like, okay. Um so just stay tuned. She's relentless.
Hey, sometimes you gotta be like a pit bull with a bone,
Yep.
and that's okay. I have been accused of the same in my life in different situations. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with having that trait. I always say I'd rather have an employee that I've got to pull the reins in or on from time to time than one I got to kick in the fanny all the time.
Yeah,
So
it's a lot easier to raise a kid that you gotta whack than pump up.
yeah,
So
nudge, nudge, nudge. Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
So other than that, I don't know. We're just we did drop the Dylan um
Yes.
confession.
I was
Um
just going to tell everyone that yes, 2 days ago on uh Trial and Error podcast on their YouTube channel, there is an almost 4.5 hour video that is unedited. It is the complete interview, interrogation, whatever you want to call it, of Dylan Adams. We've all been wanting to
it's a
see it
disaster.
and hear it.
It's a shameful example
And
of
so everybody please go check that out. Definitely.
yeah, and
Most
if
of
I
you are snowed in anyway.
yeah, let me just set that one up for you. So Zach Adams, who we've been talking about tonight, has a little brother, Dylan. Dylan wound up convicted after he took an offered plea. But before all that, before the trial, before everything else, um, Dylan was was supposed he offered what was supposed to be a confession. It's a shameful, infuriating, heartbreaking 4.5 hours because you don't have to have any experience as in law enforcement or criminal defense. You don't have to have any kind of subject matter expertise. You can just watch a young man um, be manipulated and browbeaten, um, and it's appalling. It's and they um, as Doug said eloquently at the post conviction relief hearing, um, if what you're hearing upsets you, don't be. None of this happened. So Dylan goes on and says all
Tangents.
kinds of horrible, just horrible things, none of which are what happened. So when you listen to it, just remember that he's telling a story that he's been told to tell,
Oh, right.
and the TBI before long knew that everything he'd said was false, so they never went any further with the story that Dylan told them.
to try to verify anything.
Because even well, they did try to verify it, and they proved that it was wrong and false. So they just stopped. It was like, nope, that will never that interview will never see the light of day. So so when you watch that interview, um, I consider it to be a textbook example of a false confession, a coerced confession. I consider it to be an appalling and shocking um, dereliction of duty by the law enforcement officers involved, Brent Booth included.
Mm.
And don't get too upset by what Dylan says, because it didn't happen.
Right. Well, I have someone that I'm going to try. I don't want to give people's real names, so I'm trying to find this to make sure I have the right name for the individual that sent me $10. Thank you so much. Let me see if I have a different name on here. I have Deirdre Russell. Thank you, Deirdre. I really appreciate your donation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dee.
Yeah, I want to thank you once again for coming on. You all are phenomenal, amazing. We love to have you at Misdemeanor's house. We always have a good conversation. I'm sure at some point I'll have you and Dr. Spear go back on again. Who knows what we'll talk about? Probably what I'm getting ready to watch tomorrow, the Dylan
Oh God.
confession.
I you won't need to be told what you saw. You won't.
It's unbelievable.
And
we'll definitely be watching and waiting with bated breath to find out what this new bombshell is. I'm excited.
I don't want to overhype it because it's not in the bag yet. But
That's
as soon as
okay.
when it's recorded, don't worry.
Everybody make sure you have your notifications on.
Yeah, if we get this, the only thing I'll regret is that we didn't get it sooner.
Yeah. Well, I feel very good about Zach's chances. I think Judge Bradbury is a very reasonable individual. Keeping my fingers crossed, I'm hoping, and also keeping my fingers crossed and hoping one day I'll get that, even if it's only a 5-minute interview with Mr. Bowtie Bates, since we all adore him on this channel. But yes, thank you so much for spilling as much tea as you could.
Yep, glad to do it.
And we will see you again. I'm quite certain.
Yeah, there's going to be, this is far from over, so.
Right. And I got to make sure you guys get to CrimeCon. So I don't know how to do that, but I'll figure it out.
Well, we'll see. Yeah. I hope to be able to go there and talk about how podcasting, the power of the podcast.
The power of the podcast, baby.
Yep.
Thank you so much. I am going to say goodbye to you, but then I'm going to finish up with my folks here. Thanks.
Thank you for having me anytime.
Hello, y'all. So I wanted to make sure that I did some reviewing because I was trying to put some updates on some cases out there today. Okay. I did find out that, let me see if I can find it here. I don't want to be misspeaking about things. So let me get my life in order. You know how I struggle with this. There were several updates, and so my computer just does not want to work properly right now. Kentucky Supreme Court, they have requested the judge in Mickey Stein's case be recused. They've requested that they appoint another judge in Mickey Stein's case. Dale Warner's trial is still going to start tomorrow. Dale Warner in Michigan. Um, there will be jury selection starting tomorrow. They're heading right on through as if nothing happened. It's Michigan. They have snow plows. They have salt. They know how to handle it. I feel like I had some other updates. Let me check on my phone. Sharon Moore has an additional date coming up on February 17th. Sarah Grace Patrick will have a hearing later this week. Courtney Clenny will have one next week. Corey Richens' trial is supposed to start February 10th-ish. So we have that to look forward to. There's an appellate hearing for Alec Murdaugh that is happening on the 11th of February. Stefan Diggs. If you are not a football watcher, you don't know who that is, but Stefan Diggs is a player for the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are going to the Super Bowl, and he is going to be arraigned on, I think, assault charges is basically what it is, on the 13th of February. So that will be shortly after the Super Bowl. I have checked on some cases that I've had on my radar. Checking. Fraser Bohm has a hearing on the 10th also. And I still cannot get a definitive answer on Martha Nolan and her cause of death. The family had an independent autopsy done, and there were traces of cocaine in her system, but there is still no definitive cause of death. And yes, thank you, Kelly. Yes, it is assault on the former chef, the Stefan Diggs thing. There is a case out of Michigan, another case, the Michigan nanny that took the life of the grandfather of someone she was babysitting. He was 83 years old. Y'all, we're probably going to I'm going to try to get Lady Zelda to do a breakdown on that particular case together, because this girl, I think, had a TikTok that she did card readings and things like that. And I want Lady Zelda's perspective on that. So I'm going to see if I can get that set up at some point prior to that case actually going to trial. And let me see if there's anything else I am missing. We will dig more into the Michael McKee case. Michael McKee case is the Tempe, Ohio, the dentist and the wife. I had Lana on last week and we talked about that case. We'll dig into that more as time goes by. And I don't know if you all heard this. The nanny one, I think, was Royal Oak. I'm not positive USMC, but I think it was in Royal Oak. Her name is Samantha Booth. Another Booth, y'all. Anyway, Ellen Greenberg. The feds are finally looking into Ellen Greenberg's case. I'm so happy. I'm so excited. I have been praying that they would see the craziness with this. I think we may actually get something accomplished in justice for Ellen Greenberg and her family, with the feds now taking over an investigation. That was pretty big news. That's been relatively recent. I think that was last week that took place. I'm still paying attention to the David Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. You all may have heard that the friend of David's was arrested recently in Montana. And my understanding is he is not a suspect in the case. So we'll keep following to see what's happening with that. And Laken Snelling, I'm still waiting to find out. The grand jury was going to be meeting again, at my notes that I have anyway, was going to be meeting again the end of this month. I don't know that they'll have any definitive charges or anything that will come out of that, but at least we know that the grand jury is still meeting on that case, and that it'll be sometime, I would imagine this week sometime. So tomorrow is Dale Warner jury selection. I was asked whether there will be cameras in the courtroom. I do not know, but I know that there were 7 requests, media requests. So I feel like it will be there. I know Court TV has handled a lot of the preliminary hearings in this particular case. So I think we can safely assume that when the actual trial starts, they'll be there as well. And KS Granny, I do not follow Aaron Spencer because it involves a minor, and you all know how I am about kids. However, hop on over Defense Diaries, because Defense Diaries is doing a fantastic job in covering the Aaron Spencer case. That is just not something in my wheelhouse. Don't do pets, kids, and serial killers. So make sure that you head over to Defense Diaries for that coverage. They've been doing a great job. And with that, thank you all for joining me tonight. I hope, really, really hope that you are all safe and that you have power of some kind, electricity to keep yourself warm. Don't go anywhere. If you don't know how to drive on the roads, don't do it. And by all means, y'all need to go check out Louisville Metro Police Department's Twitter or X account. It is the funniest thing you can watch during Snowmageddon 2026. I just need to tell you that. So make sure you do that. They have the funniest tweets. It's been keeping me in stitches for days. Yes, please stay safe. Anybody on the replay crew, make sure you do the hypey thing. I guess that's a new thing now. Thank you so much for coming on and watching. Who, Kelly? Louisville Metro Police Department. It is at LMPD on the Twix. And make sure you do all of the YouTube things, like, subscribe, hit your notifications. We'll be back here on Wednesday, and we're going to try to sort out and get ready for this Corey Richens thing. Unless you all send me messages that you want me to cover something else, it's going to be Corey. We're probably going to do Corey a few live streams in a row because there's a lot to cover. So with all that, again, thank you. I really can't tell you thank you enough. You can become a member. There's merchandise. You know all this stuff. Check the channel out. And of course, I always tell you, it doesn't cost a penny to be kind. So find someone to do something nice for today if you haven't already. And as always,